Hey, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in. So today we're going to continue on with this 1983 IT 125. First thing we're going to do is take that tire off, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the rim offset, which I forgot to mention when I did the front wheel. Well, I pulled this brake hub out. The lines just fell right off, so good thing I got new ones. I'll be restoring this wheel in this episode. We'll have a before and after on that. And then on the carburetor, I'm going to get, at the end of the last episode, I run into some problems with a bunch of tarlite deposits in the bottom of the bowl and all the passages of the carb. So at the end of this episode, I'll go over how I'm cleaning that, and then hopefully we can put the carb on. Anyway, once again, thanks for tuning in. So I finally got the carb cleaned up. It took a long time. The Varsol didn't really eat away at those deposits. I ended up using just soaking everything in white vinegar like you'd use in the kitchen. It took a few days. The carb kit I bought off eBay for $9. Nothing fits. Like, nothing is right. Gasket's wrong. Everything's wrong. They said it fits 77 to 83. Nothing in there works, so I don't know. Good thing it was cheap. I'm gonna have to reuse all this stuff though. So what I want to do is relap the needle and seat. I'm just gonna put a bit of fine valve lap compound on there and work it back and forth on the seat. And hopefully that will seal. If not, you can still get this from Yamaha, the seat and the needle. So we'll give this a try, but it wouldn't shock me if this carb doesn't have to come back apart. It was so gummed up. I think I've got it clean, but we will find out later. Anyway, let's get this back together. Okay, we're going to put this back together. This plate goes under the needle seat. It can only go in one way. There's a gasket on both sides. And your needle is going to go in. Then this little spring clip I guess it's probably just there and won't let the needle fall out on you. And this is going to go in, and the way I know how it fits in is there's a little dot been worn in there that would have rubbing there, so now these floats are the goofiest thing I've ever seen. I've never taken a carb apart like this where the float isn't attached to this, but these little pins obviously float up and close it. And this piece is going to go on. It can only go on one way, and your main jet holds that in. And then these little things that hold the hoses go on the front side of the carb. Then we're going to put in the air screw. When I took it apart, it was 1.5 turns from seated. But I'll double check the spec in my manual before I start the bike. So half, 1, 1.5. I had to make this new throttle stop screw. It kind of goes in and lifts the slide. It was missing when I bought the bike, and of course there wasn't one in the kit, so I made one out of a screw with a bit of a spring underneath to kind of stop it from backing out. That's the adjustment you make when the bike's running. So there you have it. It's as rebuilt as it's going to get. Hopefully it works. If not, I'll have to find a used carb. There are carbs on eBay, $40 for a brand new Chinese one, but I know they'll just be junk that don't work. So hopefully I did enough to make this one work. Okay, in the video I took the front wheel apart. I didn't mention the wheel offset. So what I am doing is laying a straight edge across the face of the brake drum. I'm using a caliper to measure the distance between here and here, and I'm going to do that in several spots around the wheel in case there's a dent. It's not true. And they're all pretty equal. So my particular offset is 2¼ inches or 57 millimeters. So when I put the new spokes on and start to tighten them, I'm going to make sure I got that right next time before I do any truing. This is the one downfall of this style of spoke on these kind of bikes. Almost every one of them is loose, and once they seize up you can't tighten them. I think that's why they probably went to more of a straight pull spoke for the later bikes. Anyway, we'll get this all apart and cleaned up. Come back later when it's going back together. One other thing I should mention, take lots of pictures before you cut this apart, or unscrew them if you can. There's different bends here and different lengths. So you can see here, this is a very sharp 90-degree bend. And then these are more shallow bends. So the outer spokes have got the right angle. Inner spokes are less bent. And there's 2 different lengths on the outer spokes and 2 different lengths on the inner spokes. So take your time, make sure you got everything right before you cut it apart. So these rims are pretty idiot proof. I know which direction the spoke should go because of the mark on the hub. And the only spoke hole that lines up is this one. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is its mate. Do that all the way around on both sides. The holes will only go one way if you're lacing it properly. Okay, we're back. We got the wheel laced. I only ran the spokes on about 1 or 2 threads all the way around. That gives you lots of flexibility to get all the spokes in. So what I'm going to do now is just by hand start running these up until they just cover the thread on every spoke, and then we'll just hand tight, and then we'll take it to the truing stand and start working on the offset. Okay, we're back at the shop. This is my truing stand, which is not a truing stand at all. It's just a couple of jack stands for a car. Just using the axle, but it works. Try not to spend money if I don't have to. Anyway, I'll go over a bit on doing this offset and the different rim I bought. Okay, if you remember when I took it apart, I measured the offset at 2¼ inches. But this is actually a wider rim than stock. It was a 1.85 by 18 rim. I couldn't find one that matched a front rim, so I ended up going with a 2.15. So I've had to subtract. This one's 7 millimeters wide, so I subtracted 3.5 millimeters off of that 2¼ gap. And I just started to tighten the spokes, and we're pretty close on that gap. So we'll just come back and double check that as we tighten it. But as far as out of the box rims, these 2 rims were from China. They were $178 shipped, and they're as true out of the box as any of the expensive rims I've bought before, like the XLs and the DID Dirt Stars. Wouldn't surprise me if these rims aren't made in a similar factory. They just don't have that stamping. They're probably similar quality to Moose Racing or Tusk. But yeah, it won't take much to screw this guy. I'm going to measure the offset one last time in a couple spots. Just right on. And then you want to go around and make sure all the spokes are tight. If you hear one that's dull or thuds, especially after the first time I ride this, I'm going to have to keep a real eye on these kind of spokes because they have a kind of a notorious reputation for loosening up. But I'm pretty happy with that. For cheap rim, looks pretty good. Well, managed to get the new Dunlop 952 tire on. It's a nice tire. Not quite Enduro, a little aggressive for that, but those Enduro tires are expensive. I was trying to save a few bucks. Looks good, didn't get scratched, so that's always a plus. One thing I should point out, this yellow circle here, I had read somewhere once that that's supposed to go to the heaviest spot on the wheel. So I'm just assuming that the wheel lock is the heaviest spot. If you didn't have a wheel lock, then I would say the valve stem. So that's why that's there. I don't think it probably matters on a dirt bike tire. Anyway, I think we should probably do a before and after. I know which wheel I'd rather have. Well, if you made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. Bike's definitely coming along. With that rear wheel looking brand new. Hit the carb back in with some new breather hose. I had to put a new throttle tube on for obvious reasons. That one was pooched. New throttle cable, works perfect. It's just long enough. A lot of these aftermarket cables, they make them too short. So I'm happy that's together. Anyway, the next episode will be the plastic polishing episode. I'll probably do one episode on how to polish the tank and the fender. And then that'll be it. There will be one more episode, final assembly. So I want to say thanks for tuning in. And we will see you next time.